I've done over 6 figures in profits in just 1 year on Etsy using a process called print on demand. So in this video, I'll go over the 5 strategies that I'd use if I started over today. Let's get into it. So the first thing that I do if I started over today was that I would focus on custom designs. So if we head into Etsy, Etsy themselves has actually branded themselves as the home for personalized gifts. And I'd even take it a bit further and just say personalized gifts for women. Now, when it comes to this, I've noticed that custom listings overall tend to have a better conversion rate than regular listings. What I do if I started over today was definitely just to focus on custom designs. Because if we just search for custom gift for women, let's sort this by physical items, as we are selling physical items with our designs on. Attach the star seller, and then instead of having star in the search bar, we swap out star for best. And we can see here, all of these are actually bestsellers. And to just gauge the demand here, we can just use our trusty Everbee and sort this by monthly sales. So as we can see, some of these could be skewed, but this is a really broad term, so this could actually be accurate, especially since Mother's Day has just come to a conclusion. This one has an estimated monthly sales of almost 4,000 orders, which seems crazy to me. But since Mother's Day was just here, then it could be so. We can definitely overall see that custom gifts for women has a lot of demand. We just take this a bit further because we want to have this on products we actually can sell. In previous videos, I've talked about candles. I've also talked about sweatshirts. Both of these are actually here, all just on the first page of this keyword. And we have 2 candles right here. 1, 2 sweatshirts, 3 sweatshirts, 4 sweatshirts, 5 sweatshirts. There are more stuff. Of course, jewelry boxes are definitely popular. Sweatshirts is definitely a big one for sure, which I've gone through over on my channel previously. But custom gifts overall just work really well on Etsy because of the branding that they have themselves done. Now, when we do custom designs, I'd really recommend to focus on adding value to the marketplace by combining stuff that works to add something new. So what I mean by that is that if we look at the sweatshirts, for instance, we can see that this is a custom one with a photo, but it also has a cursive text here. This one has a cursive vibe too. It's embroidered. This one is also embroidered, with a college style. This one also has some cursive elements to it. This one has some retro, but cursive for sure. So we have several ones here with cursive is an element that we'd use. Now, something that we don't see here is that we could actually combine the college font and the cursive font to make something new, which I've talked about previously as well. But just for the sake of the video, I'll say it here again. So we'll create a design. We'll use 4500 by 5400. That's the design that Amazon uses, and I love to use that for my Etsy stuff as well. We add a text element by pressing T. Then we need some fonts. To get that, I use Fabrica. Now, I already have these fonts since I've downloaded them previously. But if we just search for cursive fonts here, you can find a link in the description if you want to use this. But I've used the Chica font. I love that one for a cursive font. And then for the college font, I've used one called Second Pointed, this one, and those were the ones. So to add some value, what we could do here is that we could actually just search for Second Pointed and then just write custom. Then the other one was called Chica, custom text. The great thing about doing it this way is that we're not constrained by niche and the customer can add whatever they want to the listing. Otherwise, we're usually constrained by niche and we have to put up lots of stuff on Etsy, but this can definitely fast track our progress if we just focus on custom designs that the customer can customize themselves. So the second thing that I'd use if I started over today was to use break-even pricing. Now, what is break-even pricing? It's basically a $2 to $4 margin that cover any mistakes that we could have made or some small ad costs. So if we, for instance, still hop onto this sweatshirt here that we talked about initially. The sweatshirt that I sell the most is the Gildan 18,000. And a print provider that I love to use is usually Mons Digital. However, I've noticed that USPTO has recently lowered their prices overall, so I tend to use those more as I trust those 2 providers the most when it comes to sweatshirts and shirts overall. Okay, let's look at USPTO. Let's take the military green. Let's do some counting. This one costs $13.37 plus whatever they charge for shipping. And that's $8.49, $21.86. And now the selling price to get a break-even pricing would be around $28 or something. So I just test this out until I see a gross margin here of 28%. So this profit here is what I use. I use the other Etsy calculator for this. There will be a link in the description down below for this, so you can use this as well. It doesn't cost anything, and you don't need to sign up for anything. It's just a really easy way to calculate profit. So $28 or $29. So what happens when we list something on Etsy is that they initially get a boost in search. And then if we add on top of that a really low price, as price is usually actually the biggest lever that we can pull to garner some sales. So if it's boosted initially to test it out, I think that's why they do it at least. And then we have a really low price on it, and the likelihood of it selling is a lot higher. And most of the sales actually happen here on the first page. If we are on other pages far in the back, few sales happen there. Many of the ones just happen on the first page. So everything on with e-commerce overall, in my opinion, has to do, at least on marketplaces, has to do with rank. So to get some rank initially, it's really good to have a break-even price on the product while it's getting a boost in search, as that gives us the highest likelihood of actually selling if the design is something that the customer wants. Now, when should we actually bump it up to profit pricing? Profit pricing would be a 30 to 40% gross margin. So somewhere here around maybe $36. Yeah, $36 would be perfect, or maybe $37. Around 30 to 40%, but this is a great profit margin. When it is either sold 10 to 15 sales, or if it has an Everbee score of at least 50%. So on Everbee, you can see this average visibility score here. And if this is around 50%, or if the listing has sold 10 to 15 sales, then I just bump it up to profit pricing, which would be 30 to 40% in gross margin. So the next strategy that I would use if I started over today would be a guarantee. I mainly learned this when I read Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers. I'd recommend that for sure for anyone that wanted to do Etsy, as it helps so much, as I read it back-to-back 4 times, just to get a sense of how to improve my own offer on Etsy. So the guarantee, if we have no reviews in the beginning, which none of us have, that really lowers the perceived likelihood of achievement of a customer actually getting what they want, because there's a lot of risk in buying from a store that has no reviews. So having a guarantee that just states that a customer can either get a refund or a replacement if something happens is usually a great way to alleviate some risk of the customer and put it back on us, the sellers. And further down the line, it, at least for me, highed my conversion rate as well. But that's definitely one thing that I'd use from the get if I started over today. And another thing that's really important to know when it comes to Etsy overall is that the quality actually comes from the quantity. I think I've heard it's from Hormozi as well, but that's been my experience overall in life when doing any type of endeavor. I just had to put the hours in order to get good at something. And what I've learned recently is that if we don't have a lot of money, we actually got to spend a lot of time to learn something. However, if we do have some money, we can fast track the time it takes us to learn something by educating ourselves. If we have a tad bit more money even than that, we could even outsource parts of the business to people that specialize in different fields. For instance, if we do have some budget, we could hire someone that can list some listing for us or something like that. But just hiring stuff in the business that just needs to get done. Now, and the final thing that I definitely just would have wanted to know is that if there is a specific pain point, I can always just reflect on it, and then I can just make some progress with it. Pain plus reflection equals progress. This is a quote from Ray Dalio's book Principles, and it's the main thing that I took away from that book. And it basically just means that if something isn't working, or if we have tried, like I tried so many things with Etsy. For instance, I swapped up my listing images like 10 different times in just different ways, which is a real hassle to do, but just to test stuff out. So I had a lot of pain, and then I reflected on it to test some new stuff out. And then I made some progress, and that didn't really work. I swapped my images again to make stuff clearer and better. And then that didn't work, and then I made some progress. And then I did that like 10 times until I actually hit something that worked. I noticed that something didn't work, which would be the pain. And then I reflected on it, what could be better. And then I acted on that, and that led me to have progress. So just knowing that if something isn't working, that isn't bad. That's just a sign that we got to do something else and test something else. And that's just served me so well. And a final thing that I also would have wanted to know when I started this, I would definitely say that it's a strategy, since having this mindset when it comes to Etsy overall, it really made me pull through. So knowing that there is something called the Valley of Despair, and that is just when nothing is working, we just know that we are in the Valley of Despair. We just need to test more stuff and push through. There's just a big dip in the journey that we embark on when we do any kind of endeavor, especially Etsy. And just knowing that when nothing is working and we feel lost in the journey, we're still where we should be and we just need to push through. Just knowing that in any endeavor, especially as Etsy that we just embark on, we will hit a dip, and once we're in the dip, it's not bad, it's just a part of the journey. Alright, so we just learned 5 strategies that I'd use if I started over my Etsy print-on-demand business today. If there's anything that you'd like me to cover next, just drop a comment down below and I'll do my best to help out. I'll see you in the next one.